Hello and welcome everyone to the Entrepreneurs Change the World Summer Program Kickoff. Before we get started, I wanted to thank all of our sponsors, P&G, Kroger, First Financial, and Taft. This would not be possible without them. If you have any questions throughout the event today, we will have 10 minutes at the end for Q&A. At that time, you can use the raise your hand function and unmute, or feel free to type your questions in the chat. A recorded version of today's event will also be provided tomorrow. We will send out a quick survey at the end of the event, so please look out for that in the chat as well. Thank you all so much for attending. I'm going to hand it off to one of the coolest and most electric people I know, CEO of Centrifuge, Pete Blackshaw.
Excellent. Thank you, Zaina. Welcome to the program. We're thrilled to have you here, and your timing is absolutely perfect. There's never been a bigger time to be an entrepreneur. There's definitely never been a more exciting time for Greater Cincinnati, and there's never been a moment with bigger challenges for you to tackle. I did want to open by echoing what Zaina said and extend deep gratitude to those who have brought this program together for the second year, backed by popular demand, as well as the sponsors who are playing a really big role. Zan is our overall program coordinator, but it takes a village of Zaina, Brooke, Catherine, Abby. We got Mike Halloran and team from helping us with the pitch competition. There's many, many more I'm not mentioning, including our fantastic curricula, but just so grateful. The folks contributing to this is what makes this ecosystem so incredibly special. I wanted to kick off with a short video message from our new chairman of Centrifuge, P&G president and new growth, president of New Growth, Guy Prasad. I think you'll find his words really, really spot on with what this program is all about, and then I'll jump in afterwards. Let's roll the video.
Hi everyone, my name is Guy Prasad. I'm currently running our new business division at Procter & Gamble, and I am so excited to welcome you to our 2021 Entrepreneurship Challenge. I think you guys are gonna have a blast and do great. There's three reasons why I'm really excited. Actually, two reasons I'm excited and one wish for. The first reason is you guys are closest to consumers, customers, you have fresh eyes. You are gonna be the generation that changes the world, and we would love to hear about your passion projects, your ideas, your innovations. The second one is that you are so close to the digital revolution that's happening, and you can really help teach us and help us learn from you how we can connect digital much closer to some of our biggest innovations. And the third one, which is the wish for, is you guys come from so many diverse and different backgrounds, partner together, work together, and find the magic in the team. So have a blast. I think you're gonna do amazing, and I'd love to see where you come out.
Thank you, Guy. Okay, so I'd like to open up with the story of what was happening this time last year, as we all had to confront the enormity of the COVID challenge. Barely a year ago, uncertainty was everywhere. We were almost facing a bit of an existential crisis. Would businesses survive? Is there a recession around the corner? Would COVID magnify inequality gaps? A question that not only intensified in the wake of the George Floyd. We were living in a world of unending disruption in which, economic, social, health-related shocks seemed absolutely everywhere. Some people call this VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And oddly, I think many never felt more entrepreneurial or VUCA ready than at that very, very moment. In fact, in many respects, the work of a startup generally, and Centrifuge specifically, had become even more important and more urgent than ever before. For example, days after everything closed down, we transformed our co-working space in Union Hall into a 3D mask PPP operation. We weren't the only ones. Aaron Finn, who you're going to hear about in a moment, quickly created a successful online peer-to-peer tutoring network Rod Robinson, who you'll hear from, quickly joined me on a task force to identify opportunities amidst the disruption around supply chain. Ideas we once considered moonshot suddenly became real. Big companies pivoted with surprising dexterity. Kroger's CEO was quoted in the Inquirer saying the company moved 5 years in 5 weeks. And entrepreneurs are very fond of saying necessity is the mother of invention, but there's something even more powerful at work than even necessity. The best innovation sources from extreme needs, and accepting this as a starting point compels us to push harder, peel more layers, and raise the bar of tech-enabled possibility to new heights. 2 summers ago, I had the honor to serve as a juror for the Cannes Innovation Awards in Spectacular Cannes, France, one of the biggest awards for innovation. And the innovations in which we granted top awards tackled some of the world's greatest and most vexing challenges: climate change, food waste, disabilities. One winner, Doconomy from Sweden, created the first credit card that uses big data to set carbon emission limits, basically stopping you from overspending based on the impact caused by your consumption. Another winner I loved from the Philippines came up with a paint that eats carbon dioxide. I kid you not. And my all-time favorite, Thistle's, combined on-demand 3D printing to make furniture wonderfully more accessible to the disabled. And I'd like to share that clip with you just to kind of get things off to the right start. Let's play that video.
Give me just a moment.
Okay.
Feel free to turn on your cameras as well. We'd love to see you.
Oh, yes. Show thy faces.
Pete, I don't see that video.
Oh, did I not send it to you earlier? Oh, okay. All righty. Let me kind of jump ahead. Diverse needs such as those facing people with disabilities open our minds in ways that more common needs do not. They simply demand more of us as innovators and as human beings. The example that I was going to share with you came from IKEA, where they use 3D printing to basically allow, to kind of make the furniture much more accessible to the disabled. It's spread from one country to about 126 countries. And it was an example where they took that extreme need and really turned it into an opportunity, which brings me to an essential point. Innovation that solves the unsolvable almost always springs from empathy. When we say there's a need, there's a way, and I'm going to find it or create it, we open up gateways to new possibilities and ultimately to business growth. The tech-enabled solutions that fuel the wow effect, but it's underlying empathy that ignites innovation. And I really want you to think about that as part of this program. Now, you have lived through an enormous historic moment and a critically formative time in your lives. It'll shape the way you innovate and lead for the rest, from now forward. And what's most exciting is that your impact is not on hold for 5 or 10 years from now. It's actually needed today, which brings us to Cincinnati. At this particular moment in time, you have an unprecedented opportunity to tackle extreme challenges and game-changing opportunities. And these challenges and opportunities are the spirit, indeed, the manifesto of Entrepreneurs Change the World 2021. The goal of this program is not training, but creating. Our goal is to create a pipeline of fantastic ideas in areas of urgent importance, areas like sustainability, diversity and equity, virtual education. And I'd like to double click for a moment on one area where your help is urgently needed: sustainability. Now, over the past year, I chaired a task force that Rod was part of that was dedicated to growth opportunities around supply chains. And these are the global, interconnected, complex network of companies, systems, and technologies that get parts to factories, pallets to distributors, products to stores and homes, and relevant information to to hyper attentive consumers. Our report concluded that Cincinnati is the great supply way to America and the world. No other region has the advantages that we have, advantages that are converging in a very powerful and catalytic way. And so we laid out a bold vision. The majority of products consumers buy online will be delivered from Greater Cincinnati. Some of the most innovative and sustainability friendly products driving our economy could be made or serviced here. And the innovations that will transform consumer experiences and achieve unprecedented supply chain resilience and trust will be dreamed up and designed in Greater Cincinnati. And we're already on our way. With Amazon and DHL at our airport, we're now the #1. I repeat, we are now the #1 e-commerce distribution center in the US, and the fastest growing air cargo hub. Local companies like Kroger and P&G and others are setting industry standards worldwide for their innovative approaches and ambitions around responsible sourcing, whether it's sustainability or diversity, which we'll hear about in a moment, and emerging tech. And importantly, we laid out in that committee, and they're about to launch the report in a few days, key opportunities. And I encourage you to think about this as you think about your projects. Can we, for example, invent the future of packaging here in Cincinnati? Can our startups and entrepreneurs be first to market in creating shopper tools that calculate carbon scores, like that Swedish fintech I mentioned? Can we lead the rest of the industry in recycling and downcycling? Of course we can. Can we reinvent the future of food supply chains? There's a whole laundry list of opportunities I want you to think about. Now, a few words of advice. Since Centrifuge was established, our goal was to assure the long-term economic health of the region and the city. It was chartered to create a future your generation would grow into. What's so exciting today is that the future is not being created for you, it's being created by you on a scale and at a speed that's never been possible. And to make the most of this moment, I just have a couple pieces of advice. Number one, be crazy curious. Soak everything in like a sponge, ask questions, they all count. Help is everywhere. Your peers, Centrifuge mentors, even our relationships and contacts on LinkedIn, Hardy, or other platforms. Go for it. Do not be shy. 2, leverage diversity. As Guy Prasad noted, diversity and innovation share a symbiotic relationship. I believe it's the inherent competitive, the untapped competitive advantage of Cincinnati, and you reflect it. Take full advantage. 3, manage, don't resolve tension. Leadership today is loaded with tensions: formal versus informal power, scale versus agility, intuition versus ROI. Don't assume it's one or the other. Get comfortable in the fuzz, sometimes in that difficult middle. Stay resilient. You will get frustrated. You might throw away your first concept. You'll have differences of opinion with your teammates. We had plenty of that last year. Stay in the game. Most entrepreneurs fail all the time. Learn from the mistakes, get up, and keep iterating. And then, network. Networking is the most important career skill you will ever build. It will reward you in perpetuity. You have a golden opportunity through this program to become world-class networkers. And I hope and I expect that many of you will become friends for life, and you'll be calling each other, for favors or connections or joining each other's teams 20 years from now, but you got to work it. And then this is a really big one, and you're going to hear from one of the best experts on the planet in this area in a couple of days. Know thy ecosystem. We have one of the best entrepreneurial ecosystems in the nation. And our goal through this program is to give you a taste of what's available to you. Some of you may come up with the idea and you're going to run with it today. Others are going to leave the region, but may at some point come back. But we want you to know that this ecosystem, this entrepreneurial ecosystem, is here to support you in every way possible. Finally, a personal note. My own personal entrepreneurial journey is kind of zigzagged from California to Cincinnati, from large company experiences like P&G, Nestle, and Nielsen, to digital startups like Planet Feedback, IntelliSeek, and BuzzMetrics. I personally love the thrill of creating and launching new things. From disruptive approaches to online feedback, and several new products when I was at P&G. That passion started really, really early. I sold avocados from our family trees at 14. I covered most of my college tuition selling t-shirts, bearing our school's iconoclastic mascot of UC Santa Cruz, the banana slug. And when the internet came around, I sold t-shirts online via a platform called SlugWeb. I wish I'd called it Amazon. But I said earlier that being in the midst of the pandemic last year made me feel more entrepreneurial than I've ever felt, even relative to those early kind of experiences. And that was true then, but what's even more truer now is that my entrepreneurial passion is inflamed even more today than it was a year ago, or even when I was hawking avocados, because I'm in your presence and I am very much aware that you have tremendous potential to create. So let's lead the innovation that tackles our region's biggest, toughest challenges and pushes Cincinnati beyond recovery and invigorating revitalization, better than before, starting now. Welcome to the program. We're thrilled to have you, and we're here to help you in any way we can. Thank you.
Zana. Should we turn to Aaron since Rod is on hold for a sec?
Sorry.
Oh, there he is. Hey,
Yes.
Rod.
Yeah.
All right.
My connection was unstable
Okay.
outside, so
Hey, can I introduce Rod?
Great. Yes, please.
Okay, because he can't just start. I mean, Rod has been one of my biggest inspirations since joining this team. He's been a trusted board member. He's been a friend. He's been an advisor. He's always first to raise his hand, which I think is inherently entrepreneurial. He has led what I consider to be one of the most, he hasn't just led in a startup. He has actually shaped an industry that I think is just about to kind of transform the world in very, very, very positive ways. And we're lucky to have him here. And we hope to get kind of a lot more service from him throughout this program. And I have a feeling I'm going to be working with Rod in many different ways on many different projects in the future. But Rod, you've got such a great story. Thanks for joining us. Let's hear it, my friend.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's interesting when I reflect on my journey. I think early, as kids growing up, you don't fear, you have no fear. And so I do recall, Pete, like some of my earliest entrepreneurial ventures. I didn't think of them that way at the time, but I used to cut lawns for neighbors, right? And then I saw an opportunity to, now I think of it as a bundle services, right? So, hey, while I'm cutting your lawn, I can wash your car as well, right? Now I got to use your water, but I can wash your car as well. But no, I remember those days. But I never thought about it as entrepreneurs. I just thought about it as as hustling, right? But just to provide my story, my journey has been interesting. I started. I grew up in South Florida. Fort Lauderdale, to be exact. Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Grew up in a family of educators and entrepreneurs. I'll call them business owners back then. And my grandfather actually had restaurants that specialized in barbecue. So that was probably one of my first exposures to what it was like to own a business and sort of see it firsthand. And it's had an impact on me, as I love to grill nowadays. But fast forward, I ended up going to college in West Virginia Tech, majored in accounting, and decided that I was going to go work in public accounting. So I actually did stints with Pricewaterhouse, Deloitte and Touche, I guess the big 8 at the time, kind of aging me. Now it's the big 4. And my goal was to, either become a partner in an accounting firm, or become a CFO, maybe, move into a controllership role with a client. I really had no intention of, I didn't know where my path was going to take me. That was kind of the path I was on because I had kind of gone through, the traditional educational process, following what my parents wanted, take less risk and, secure that job. And I did public accounting for 4 years, and I realized that it wasn't as fulfilling as I thought it would be. So I wanted to broaden my horizon. So I decided to apply to business school, went back, got my MBA. Parents thought I was crazy because I quit my job. What's wrong with you? You could get your MBA at night. But I did that. I was very happy that I did. That led me to a career in management consulting. So I worked with some of the big firms, Accenture, A.T. Kearney, and that's where I became exposed to supply chain and procurement. So I became a specialist in supply chain and procurement consulting during my consulting days. And interestingly enough, my consulting career path led me to a client based here in Cincinnati, where I've been living for the last 20 years or so, which was Cincinnati Bell. And they were a client. And after some great project work that we did for them, they recruited me to be chief procurement officer. And so it was in my chief procurement officer role combined with my consulting background that sort of started planting these seeds in my head about, doing a better job of leveraging technology in procurement. But organizations like Centrifuge and a lot of the entrepreneurial activity that we see going on today to support entrepreneurs wasn't really happening. So I had this idea based on my work as a chief procurement officer, my previous work as a consultant, to actually start this company that would help companies drive more transparency in supply chain. Specifically, we had specific targets that we had to hit as a company relative to supplier diversity. So if you had a contract with the federal government, state, local governments pretty much followed suit. There were regulations put in place that said, hey, if you have over a $500,000 contract with the federal government, you have to commit contractually to spending with specific supplier populations, whether it be women, minorities, veterans. And it was a big pain for me and my team as we had to go around, first of all, collecting, manually, sort of collecting data, aggregating that data. Oftentimes we had difficulties, meeting our targets. We were sending spreadsheets out to suppliers to report information to us. But to make a long story short, it was really challenging. There are a lot of disparate organizations that provided access to diverse suppliers, but a lot of the information was stale. And so really I saw an opportunity to create an integrated solution that helped companies easily identify specific supplier populations, including those categories that I mentioned before, but not only find the suppliers, to also really validate in their status, and classify them such that it's easy for our clients to report to their third-party constituents. And so that's where Connexus was born. So I basically created Connexus in 2010, grew the company to about 35 employees over 10 years, experienced significant growth over that time frame. We raised about 10 million, 11 million in venture capital, had some of the world's biggest brands as customers. And it was really, when I look back on it, I wasn't the plan wasn't to, at the outset, to actually start a company, you know, build employees, you know, build an employee base. I was really looking to solve a problem. I think that's really ultimately what my passion is really solving problems. And so I saw a problem that had been around for, you know, 15 years prior, and it hadn't changed over that time. I said, I can't believe no one's stepped up to solve this problem. And I mean, there have been organizations that, you know, tried to create opportunities, and, you know, you'd hear press releases announced and people saying, hey, we finally have a solution to this problem. But I saw an opportunity to really, you know, given where we were, you know, when I first sort of got the idea for the problem and how far technology had advanced, it really made it a little bit easier to kind of bring all the pieces together to create, you know, to create Connexus as a platform. After 10 years, we actually got acquired by Coupa Software. And so now Connexus is a part of the Coupa platform. So Coupa, if you haven't heard of them, they're a public company valued at about $17 billion as of the latest stock price, about 3,000 employees. And really now Connexus is central to Coupa's really responsible sourcing platform, if you will. So I feel proud that the outcome of, you know, the outcome of what was created has really moved to a global platform where more and more people can be impacted, more minority businesses, more women-owned businesses have the opportunity to grow. So it's very gratifying, if you will, to look back on that. And it really all started with just trying to solve a problem. Now, the journey wasn't easy, but it was fun, and I learned a lot. You know, some of the lessons that I learned along the way is, you know, don't be afraid to ask for help. You definitely have to get comfortable with yourself and, you know, sort of know thyself and understand what your weaknesses are. And you know, you got to hire against those weaknesses, right? Surround yourself with people who are smarter than you at what they do, and you know, create an environment where they can do their best work. That was probably some of the best advice I ever received. You know, and I tell you, Pete really hit the nail on the head in that you really have to, you got to show up. I think the most failures are due to someone giving up, I believe. I can't, you know, I don't know if I can back that up, but I've seen people quit right before they got to a certain point. And, you know, looking back, wondering, wow, if I had hung in there a little bit longer. I know there were times when along the journey, you know, I was thinking, you know, maybe this is just ahead of its time, and maybe it's time to, you know, pivot or, you know, move on to something else. And, you know, after several episodes of having to put more money in the company and you know, tell my wife that you know, I'm ready to quit, we land a big contract with McDonald's, right? So it's like it was right around the corner. You know, the darkest days, you know, often, you know, are followed by, you know, huge up days, right? So, but I tell you what, I wouldn't trade it for the world. And you know, what I find myself doing now is advising entrepreneurs, angel investing, and that's sort of keeping me inspired. And actually, it's sort of drawing me back to wanting to do it again and apply all the lessons learned. So I get a kick out of just, you know, speaking to aspiring entrepreneurs and helping them avoid the mistakes that I made, and sort of, you know, helping to, you know, to build the companies of the future. I mean, I'm really inspired by all of the resources that are available now. I wish when I was in your positions that 1/10 of the resources were available when I was thinking about it. In fact, the one thing I do look back on and reflect on, I wish that I had taken the entrepreneurial plunge much earlier in life, because I think there's just learnings that have to take place. I think as much as I'd like to help you all avoid, all the mistakes that I made and other peers have made, I think there's no substitute for just having to go through some of this stuff to just learn. You just roll up your sleeves and slug through it. But I think it's one of those things where now there's so many resources available to really help accelerate that path. I look at some of the inventions of today. I look at I was sharing with my wife in business school, one of my projects was a multi-restaurant delivery service. Now, this was 25 years ago. So it would be like a DoorDash, right? And so I was like, man, I had this idea. She said, yeah, you did have that idea. I remember it. But we didn't have the technology infrastructure to execute it. So I look back at some of these things and I'm thinking, wow.
Too damn early, dude.
Yeah, I mean, really, the idea was there. A Netflix type idea, because I had entrepreneurship class and we had to do, idea generation. And I look back on that and I think it's so important. Now I understand why, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson are spending money to colonize space, right? So they're going to create they're going to create the infrastructure to enable the next generation of entrepreneurs to create space businesses, right? But yeah, I mean, it's been a fun journey. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I think that the highs are really high. And so I think at the stage that you all are at in life, it's time to take the risk and leverage all the resources around us to help you. I don't know. Are we going to do Q&A?
No, I think we're gonna, well, we may have some time towards the very end, but let's give it up for Rod.
Thank you.
We're going to make sure Rod's kind of close to the process and definitely reach out to him if, throughout, he's been a big supporter of what we're going to do, of what we're doing. Before we go to our next esteemed speaker, someone who's actually a graduate, an alum, who's kind of put all this in practice, I wanted to just share that video clip with you. And what I want you to think about as you watch it is think about the theme that I shared about extreme challenges drive innovation, but I also want you to think about the power of simplicity, because I don't want all of you to think, oh my gosh, I have to be a mad scientist. I need to know AI. I need to be a master of algorithms. Some of the best innovation is beautifully simple. And that's where I think all of you can bring refreshing perspectives. So let's see if we can make this work. Round two.
Although I have cerebral palsy, I do everything I can to conduct myself like everyone else. But in my own home, I'm surrounded with furniture crying out, cripple. I'd like to sit on a regular sofa without being afraid I won't be able to get up.
IKEA's vision is to create a better everyday life for the many. These tables give simple and affordable home furnishings for 10% of the population.
Every child, every person is different depending on their needs.
Disability drives innovation.
Even in some of our public libraries, there's 3D printers.
A lot of the solutions, they've been very medicalized down through the years, and nothing as cool as anything you've produced.
ועכשיו אנחנו רוצים להראות לכם יוזמה מיוחדת של רשת איקאה שנקראת Disabled.
יוזמה חשובה שתקל על אנשים עם מוגבלויות איקאה, עם ארגון נגישות.
So with that, let's move over to another beautifully simple yet crazy impactful idea created by one of our own high school students, Erin Finn, and her brother created this amazing service called Tutor Teens, and we're going to hear about it. And I hope this inspires you to come up with a similar idea. We want some great ideas to come out of this this program. Erin, you have the floor.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Blackshaw, for this amazing opportunity. I'm so happy to come back. My name is Erin Finn. I am a sophomore, and I'm also currently outside. If you hear any birds tweeting or a wasp that's been bugging me for the past 40 minutes, I'm at Camp Ernst over the week. So Apple started in a garage. Facebook with a Harvard hot or not. Tutor Teens started as two teens bored and pandemic with our mom telling us to do something productive. To see on the next slide, a little bit about Tutor Teens itself and the program. We are a volunteer teen tutoring service matching Greater Cincinnati high schoolers 8 through 12 with area students K through 12. We focus mostly on tutoring, also with mentoring and social interaction. And many of our teens can earn service hours for their school through this program. Our mission is to keep students engaged in learning, and our vision is to harness the empathy, optimism, and innovation of local teens to help close education gaps in our community. So next slide, you'll see our impact. To date, we have had 120 tutor teens from 22 area high schools. We've helped 191 students from 70 plus area schools, that's preschools, elementary schools, and high schools, as well as middle schools. And we've tutored 1,900 hours as of May 31st. But how did we get here? So we started off with a problem. As you've heard from both presenters today, innovation is driven by need. And during the pandemic, schools were a big issue. Everyone was online, and students that were normally getting tutoring or help from parents, teachers, were no longer getting that access. And so Aiden and I looked at what we knew. Nothing huge, nothing crazy, but we both knew school. We were in school, we had done what the work they were doing. We knew the new math that a lot of parents struggled to understand. We knew screens. We were online, we were doing Zoom. We understood the programs that they were using for school. And we were both passionate about service. Aiden and I had both done work at school, doing tutoring with younger kids, peers, etc. And so we took all of that and tried to find a solution. Next slide. This is kind of our introduction to Tutor Teens. It was just a super simple sign up form in a Google Sheet. We had the name, and it was just friends and neighbors. We had a group of our friends and neighbors with little kids, and we were focused mostly on COVID and a loss of in-person learning. We wanted to have interaction as well as just, one-on-one how to do math facts. But this was a really simple program and idea that we didn't think was going to go anywhere beyond just, a couple of weeks of us having fun. But suddenly, as in the next slide, it kind of went haywire. We got huge media attention. We reached out to you by Local 12 News and were featured. We had Forbes and the Wall Street Journal talk to us in the same day. And this keyed us into the fact that this was something that was needed, and we were on to an idea. But we were kind of stuck. Aiden and I were not entrepreneurs. We had never taken anything on this, and so we didn't know what to do. So in the next slide, you'll see that we did this program. And last year, the ECTW was crucial. We learned a lot about a lot of different things, including advisors. Mr. Blash is actually on our board of advisors for Tutor Teens. Learned about tools and framework, the value of like a value proposition or a business plan. Another thing that we learned from these issues is you have to know what you're doing in order to grow it. So we had to know exactly what defines Tutor Teens in order to make that a success. Some things that were key to us, that it was all local. We wanted to have a community connection. It was teens only to have that peer-to-peer tutoring. We wanted it to be free. Our vision was to help lower the education gaps. And if it was $60 an hour, that wouldn't help anybody. We wanted to have training for tutors, but the fact that anyone could tutor. You didn't need to be a straight A student in order to help a kindergartner read. It was virtual only. That was partly because of the pandemic, but also it allowed more flexibility with timing and for kids that are 8th grade or 9th grade that can't drive to be able to help out. And it was all about the match. It was more than just, oh, I can do this math. It was, I can do this math. We have the same interests and abilities, and I can become more of a friend and a mentor to you than just someone you see on the weekends. So on the next slide, you'll see what's next. we've hit this point and we're looking for the future. We've been able to grow because of this program, and we've learned that this isn't just about the teens. It also the students. It also helps the tutors, and we're no longer just doing what we know. We're now growing and succeeding together as a group. So the next slide, you'll see our roadmap. This is what we learned in Centrifuge in this program to help us kind of plan out where we're going next. What we've already accomplished in the 2021 school year was we worked on automation. We developed an advisory board. We did test prep, something that we decided to try out and see what worked. We're now looking forward to the summer with coordinator groups, allowing our teens to help us run this program. A training program for them, a website translation. And in the future, we're hoping to have new chapters, maybe outside of Cincinnati in places like Pittsburgh or Columbus, having more like automated reminders. And then way down the line, just kind of moonshot goals almost, would be having an app, a podcast, maybe a VR platform. Next slide. This is a little bit more about what we learned, and I'm sure I'm going to echo a lot of what you've already heard today, but you can learn a lot by just trying something. So a really important thing is that businesses grow at the speed of trust, and there are two different kinds of trust you need to know about. One is you need to trust yourself and your brand. Don't be afraid to take chances. We tried test prep. You can experiment with different things, see what works. You're bound to fail eventually, but maybe you catch on to something that's the next big idea. And you have to have trust from your customers and your employees. We had to really work with parents, teachers, teens in order to get this program to spread. The media attention only took us so far. We got name recognition, but no signups. And so we needed people to trust our brand and who we were as people and what we were striving for in order to get them to sign up. Be who you are and know what you do. Don't change your way of thinking to fit your brand to somebody else. Some popular startups worked because they were disrupted, like Airbnb and Uber. We decided that we knew tutoring and we weren't going to try to solve this big problem with something that we didn't know how to do or try kind of complex solution. Take what you know and try it. You don't need frills to be effective. Money is great and it really does help in the beginning, but you don't need it. Don't look at a lack of funding as a reason not to start. You need free resources like Canva, Weebly, Airtable, Zapier. They're amazing. I'm actually learning right now how to use programs like Thinkable and Glide that help work apps for free. And as you've heard multiple times throughout the day, ask. When people say they want to help, take them up on that offer. If someone says, reach out to me, I can help you, please do. Send a quick email. The worst you can have is a no. So next slide, I see some tips that I have for making the most out of this program. As someone who's been through this, I recommend staying to the end. You may not get anything immediately, but don't get intimidated by that fact. Stick with it, keep trying, and eventually you'll figure it out. Ask questions to the presenters if you don't get what they're saying, or just Google a word. Asking questions can lead to lasting connections. And if you can kind of have that key input, if they can recognize your name, the next time you go to pitch and you have this great idea, they go, oh yeah, that's the person that talked to me. Follow them on LinkedIn. If you don't have a LinkedIn account, make a LinkedIn account and follow the people you're talking to. As Mr. Blackshaw said, networking is crucial. And don't be afraid to share your viewpoint. Something that I learned about entrepreneurship is that new ideas are needed. A lot of people, including adults, have been doing the same thing for a long time. I'm currently 16. When I did this program, I was 15 and a rising sophomore. I was really intimidated and was shy to share my ideas. But if you're young, then your new ideas are going to drive the new innovation. So don't be afraid to put your voice out there. And then, a little bit of a self-plug. I'm gonna, next slide, you can see a little bit of our contact. If you're interested in joining the program, please reach out to me. You can see my emails out there. You can go to our website at www.tutoring.com. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn, as I mentioned. And if you're interested in tutoring, please join us. I'm gonna post a link in the chat to our sign-up form. If you're at all interested in tutoring, check us out. We would love to have you over the summer or for next school year. Just, anything you can do helps. My link's not working.
Let's give it up for Erin.
Erin, fantastic. Oh, go ahead, Pete.
Don't be intimidated. You can all do that. I promise.
Yeah. Erin, can you give them just a 1-minute highlight of the pitch competition? Because I want to do a big shout out and let everybody know about the pitch competition. But since you were in the pitch competition, I think you'd be better suited.
Yeah, the pitch competition is an awesome experience. It's a great way to kind of work with other, students. We had college and high school students in my program. I actually didn't pitch tutor teams. We came up with a really cool social interaction where there was a website we could find all kinds of different networks to reach out for community engagement. You can have all kinds of wild and crazy ideas that the pitch competition allows you to learn in person, hands-on about how to make an elevator pitch, how to really dig deep to your idea and stylize it so that it makes sense to everybody else when you're presenting. It's great for public speaking, and I totally recommend you just jump in and try it. There are no bad ideas, and you might end up doing well. I'm pretty sure we ended up with 5th place. Maybe high, I'm not sure that number. But just go ahead and give it your best shot, and you don't know what might happen.
Yeah.
Hey, Erin, I want to ask you a question around networking and asking for help. Can you count on more than one hand the number of people who said no when you asked them for help? Or did you generally find that people were really eager to help where they could?
Yeah, I probably could have, on one hand, people who have said directly no to what we're doing. People are looking for different stories and innovations. And so if you can just ask someone just for a simple request, they might jump right onto that. Or if they can't help you, they might know someone who can, and they'll forward you along to that next person.
That's great. Thank you, Erin. Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Rod. Just want to give you guys a heads up on a few quick things as we wind up our time here, and we're going to allow just a couple minutes for Q&A too, but I want to make sure we get this in before we close. So communication is really, really key for this summer. We communicate through email. So we set up GroupMe for reminders, and Zaina's going to be on point all summer again to help. You'll hear a lot from her about reminders through the programming throughout the week. So we have 3 virtual programs throughout the week. Please make sure to attend the pitch trainings. And if you have a conflict, you'll get a link. Every program we have comes with a recorded link the next day in materials, but we'd love to see the engagement, and you guys can kind of feed off of each other too with Q&A. So it's really important to the extent you can attend. We really want to see you, and particularly as you start to prepare for the pitch. So on Wednesday, I'll be sending out the teams. Any last calls today, because I'm going to start doing the teams this afternoon, please send me your preferences. If you know friends that have joined the program and you haven't gotten in touch with me yet and you want to be on a team together, please let me know before the end of today. How about that? I've already had quite a few let me know. So it's really helpful when you guys have friends that you want to participate together. That I think that it makes it more fun. So please stay on top of your email this summer. You'll see a lot of communication from us, materials, links, etc. Please make sure to invest and participate in the pitch competition, because that's really the most exciting, I think, part of the engagement is what Erin was talking about, getting to know your fellow peers. And that's going to be pretty rigorous week to week with the professor. So he's going to train you on Mondays, and then you all are going to meet as a team, and we'll have a college lead for each team who's responsible for organizing you. So scheduling seemed to be a little bit of an issue last year. So make sure you guys have a lot of communication within your team and scheduling. So if you know any apps like Calendary or something else that can help your teammates out, that would be awesome. And then you're going to learn from the professor every week. So you're going to talk about the problem you're trying to solve, and we have topics. I'll send those out again. And then, or you can have your own, or you can have your own startup. Whatever you'd like to do, we're flexible. And then you're going to learn about solutioning, and the professor has tools around solutioning that you may or may not be aware of that are pretty cool, and these are skills you'll take with you well beyond the program. And then you'll get into developing your pitch and putting together your pitch deck and practicing. Because of the number of students we have this year, we're probably going to do a preliminary round on July 23rd, and then the final 12 teams will go July 30th. So which is our last day in our big competition. So we have, last year we had like 14 teams. This year we may have double that. So if you have any conflicts, no problem. You'll get the link, you'll get the materials, and then just stay engaged with your pitch team. You don't sign up for the teams. I assign the teams. So I'm looking at the questions in the chat, by the way. I'm answering some questions as we're talking. And so, like I said, if you have any, preferences, please let me know. This program is all virtual. So the calendar link that we sent you in the original, and we'll send it out again, has every single program and everything is virtual. And feel free to get in touch with me or get in touch with Zena if you have any conflicts, any questions at all. We're happy to help you through this summer. You can group us. Either one, Zena and myself, or you can email us, either one. We respond to both. So, and most of all, just have fun, like really have fun with this, embrace it. It's your program. Really, it's your program. We're just here to help deliver and share startup inspiration, startup skilling, but you only get out of it what you put into it. So make sure you really embrace it and have fun with it. And if you encounter any roadblocks or if something happens within your team, we'll work it out. Not a problem, not a big deal. We ran into that a couple times last year. We had some teams we had to disband, and we just put people on different teams. So it's not a problem at all. So questions, thoughts, as we have about 6 minutes left for myself, Zena, the presenters, Pete, Rod, Aaron, just jump right in. I'm looking at the chat too while we're talking. Yep, I'll send out the calendar schedule again, or Zena will. And you're not supposed to make the teams. I make the teams because we want to balance high school and college, male, female, ethnicity. But if you have preferences of a couple team members, let me know, because we want to make sure those who want to be together will be together. So, yeah. Okay, great. Any questions in the chat that I missed? Just turn off mute and you can ask me directly. That's fine too.
Hey, Eric, any pre-work ahead of your, Eric Weissman is the guru of the ecosystem I was alluding to. Do you want to have them,
do a little shout out.
Cincy map, or do you want to?
We'll go over that tomorrow. We'll keep that fresh.
Okay. All right. Good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It looks like a good group.
Bring some good questions for them.
Yeah.
Other questions for anyone?
Yes, you can unmute yourself and ask questions. Please do.
Hello, my name is Umansh Parashar. Thank you everyone for organizing this event. My question is for Mr. Rod Robinson. I'd like to ask, at what point do you think one should consider registering in a startup? And that's my first question. And my second question is, how do you prevent your startup or startup idea from being copied by others? Or just by how do you prevent it from being copied by others? And what if they take on your idea, and kind of like what happened with Facebook?
Yeah. So when you say register, you mean to incorporate?
Correct.
Is that what you mean when you register?
Yes. So that we don't have any legal issues.
Yeah. So that's a good question. I think that if you feel like you have a product, and it's not very expensive to incorporate, for one. So if you feel like you might have any issues with your name, the name being available, things like that, because people start entities all the time. Like when I first incorporated Connexus, it was an LLC, and then by the time we got to a point where we said, hey, yeah, we're on to something, and we were going to raise capital, we converted to a C corporation. So I think don't spend a lot of time worrying so much about it. I think you're probably better to just consult with a legal counsel. You got a lot of resources, and they'll be able to give you an idea of, at the time, when the time is right. But I'll probably say the earlier, the better. In terms of someone copying, I didn't worry about that. I felt that sharing the idea with people that I trusted, friends, former colleagues would really help to build on the idea and look at angles that I may not be looking at. I believe that no one's going to be able to execute your idea with the same passion that you will. I mean, if it's an idea that, you're just, trying to create, a solution to a problem that really doesn't exist, it's a different story. Like in the case of Facebook and what was the predecessor? I can't think of the name of it. You mentioned it earlier.
MySpace?
I think Facebook benefited by being a second mover in that case, right? I think some of the infrastructure was in place. MySpace came along at a different time, but I think Mark Zuckerberg had this passion. Like I think he was driven by the passion of being somewhat introverted and seeing the value of social networking. And so I think there's this thing called the passion gap that I strongly believe in, which is why I love backing entrepreneurs who are who've experienced the problem that they're trying to solve. And so I think that's why I never worried about someone copying it. I just felt like I was uniquely qualified to execute it. And so I think that's how you should approach it, my opinion. It's a risk that someone would steal your idea, but it's an execution at that point. And do they have the same passion? It's like trying to copy a test, copy someone else's answers, but it's the wrong test, right? So hope that answers your question. I'll give you some idea.
You have time for one more?
I think we only have a minute left, so I am going to wrap us up. But if you guys have any questions, send it to me or Zand, and we're happy to forward your questions to any of our speakers. So yeah, I'm going to wrap us out, throw up our sponsors as well. Okay, so thanks so much, everyone, for taking the time to join us today. Thank you so much again to Pete, Rod, and Aaron for kicking off our program this year. You guys all did a great job. The recorded version of this session will be available tomorrow. Students, we love hearing your feedback, so please fill out the survey that I sent in the chat. We love knowing how we can make our program better, and we really value your feedback. So it takes less than a minute. Please fill it out. Please join us at 1 p.m. tomorrow for the world's best startup ecosystem right in your backyard with Eric Wiseman. This Thursday, also tune in at noon for your personal brand matters. Every tweet, every post, every public thank you.
Don't miss that either.
We have a lot of exciting programming.
That'll be one of the best sessions. What a week. Eric, then Greg Eisenhower. Wow. Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Welcome
Thank
aboard. Change the world.